be on stage with this very engaging group of people whose books I have thoroughly enjoyed reading because it's something right up my own passion at the moment. Calcutta, its history, its anecdotes, the soul of the city, the nostalgia, and all the things that make it a place that anyone who comes here falls in love with. So I'm going to do a very brief introduction to everybody, and then I'm going to let the Adda in true Bengali style flow and see where it takes us through the evening. So let's start with Bachi. At some point, many of you would have read a column that has moved you deeply and made you think deeper with more clarity, with more insight, and often that's after reading one of Bachi's columns. She's grown up in Calcutta. I'm going to talk a little bit about her connections with the city, but she has been involved with the Statesman, the Times of India Group, the Illustrated Weekly, and has shaped the narrative and the structure of those newspapers and media outlets with her wit and, as I said, her clarity of thought, and helped us all think a little bit deeper and more meaningfully as she's tackled issues on gender, on AIDS, on urbanization, and bringing those little stories of urban India to light when other people didn't ask the question why, but she was courageous enough to ask the question why, and that is why we love her reading so much. So welcome to the stage. Now, Anita Kar, I have been riveted by your book for the last week because as somebody who moved to Calcutta 29 years ago this month, I knew very little about the city. I knew nothing about history. I'm a science teacher by profession, but I have been taking people around the city as I have fallen in love with the stories and the anecdotes. And to read the original anecdotes that you talk about in this book have brought everything that I've done over the last 20 years alive, right from Job Charnock as he entered the city to the very rude exit of the capital in 1911. So from 1690 to 1911, there are 22 essays that Anita has translated from the Bengali historian and social writer and journalist Nikhil Sarkar, commonly known as Sri Pankho. And she's translated it with such a clever pen because she's been able to keep the sense of what he originally wrote, but she's kept it relevant. She's explained the context and the stories about people like Begum Johnson, who's buried in St. John's Church, the origins of the Armenians, the Portuguese, some of the really interesting families that lived in the city, and some of the narratives that we don't often hear detail on. So I really do urge you to read this book because it's absolutely fascinating, and thank you for bringing this to mainstream audiences. Aritra, from a career in sort of the corporate world, yes, and the New York Times and then ABP, the Wall Street Journal, I do apologize, and ABP, you now have transitioned from writing about sort of self-help books in a way and personal sort of improvement to a book called Soulful Cal, which again takes you through a sort of emotional geography of the city and celebrates neighborhoods, communities, food from kati rolls to puchkas to rasagullas to some wonderful, I've bookmarked a couple of pages to read out, but I'm going to let you talk about it first. But some of the ways that you've described, if Puchka were a person, she'd be that college girl from Jadavpur, sharp tongue, quick to laugh, unapologetically loud. I mean, I love it. There's so many interesting things like that. And then last but not the least, my partner in crime and colleague, Sean Kenworthy, the British-born chef, who has, he says over the years, he's become something of a first-generation, modern-day Anglo-Indian, marrying a local girl who's seated in the audience, cooking his way across the country and finding home in a city that never quite lets you leave. So on that note, a city that never quite lets you leave, I would love to invite Bachi to talk about her growing up years, Loreto, Calcutta University, the Statesman, and everything that draws you back to this wonderful city.
Thank you, Husna. Thank you, Kolkata. And I'm